This is a good start, and with the structure that we've put in and the CSS classes and IDs, we're going to be able to style this with the Bootstrap framework and with some custom CSS of our own. Rails uses a CSS framework called Sass, and there's a Bootstrap Sass gem that was already included as part of lesson 3. We can get started using it by creating a custom CSS file of our own. And in fact, it's going to be a custom CSS and Sassy CSS. This is the format that Sass uses. Actually, Sass supports 2 formats, but this is the one that looks more like regular CSS. So what we want to do is make a file called custom.css.scss. You can do that however you want. The place you do it is in App Assets Style Sheets. But I like using touch, like this. This is especially convenient when you have this somewhere and you can just copy, say, from the Rails tutorial book. Probably would have been faster actually just to right click over here in this context, but anyway, it should be working now. Let's refresh it. Where is it? There it is. We'll be talking more about Sass later in this lesson, but this SCSS extension tells Rails that it needs to run this file that we're about to fill in through the Sass preprocessor. So let's open it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by importing some of the Bootstrap framework. The way we do that is with @import. There's a facility called Sprocket, and we have to end this with a semicolon. And then we import Bootstrap itself. Again, it's really not important to know where these things come from. I mean, I got these from some documentation website somewhere. And now you're getting them from me. And let's put in some styling here. This is universal styling that will apply globally to our application. So the HTML tag, I want to do overflow Y, scroll. This is the kind of thing that you really want to get a designer to help you out with. But in this case, I've already had a designer go over the CSS and make it look okay for the sample app. And actually, before even putting these in, let's comment this out like that. And let's actually see what this Bootstrap did for us. See if it did anything. We might have to restart the web server. This is a universal algorithm. If you try something in Rails and it didn't work, then you should restart the web server and see if it does. Ah, that worked though. Look at that. But that's a lot. Look at that. We got a huge change just from including Bootstrap. So this is a really promising start. We've got, this isn't styled, but we've got this bar at the top. We've got these links. We don't have a button yet, but this is really good. So let's go back to our styling. Okay, so let's take a look at this. I'm going to make a section. It's certainly not a bad idea just to copy these from the Rails tutorial, because this is not a web design book. I'm going to type these out just in case there's something I want to comment on. But this is not a core part of this tutorial, so you can feel free just to copy and paste. And some of these are actually in anticipation of future things we're going to be doing in this tutorial. They actually won't do anything immediately. Size vertical. So dot center here, this is the center class. We're going to add some rules to the center class. So we had this on the home page. Right? So this center class is going to be styled by this dot center. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to text align center, and then an H1 inside a center class, so that's this. This is inside a tag that has the center class, so this h1 we're going to style. Give it a margin on the bottom, 60 pixels. So this is a pixel. I don't even really know what some of these things do. Like, I probably just grabbed them off the web somewhere. A lot of web design is like that. But I really do recommend working with a professional designer if you're going to make any real app. Refresh this and see what it looks like. It's looking pretty good. There's something surprising here. Actually, I think that this button should be working, and I'm not sure why it's not. So let's take a look at that. I was right. There actually is a typo here. Maybe you noticed this when I made it. This is button, button large. This should be button primary BTN. Because this is actually part of Bootstrap, and if I save this and then refresh, it should work. Take a look at this right here. There we go. Look at that. So we can replicate what we did before. We can just go to here and comment out everything we've added. Right, and this is the pure Bootstrap. So this is just the Bootstrap style. So I was right that this button should have actually been showing up with this styling. So that's great. Next up, I want to add some rules for typography. And in this context, I really do feel like it's not important to go into the details. So I'm going to copy and paste from the tutorial. So here it is. Let's just copy this here. Paste it in. Line height is just the height between lines, as you might guess. There's a font size, spacing between letters. The negative indicates that it's closer. This is for an H1 tag, H2, and this is for the paragraph tag. This is a hexadecimal color, 777. Let's save that and see what its effect is. It's looking nicer. And finally, I want to add some header CSS. In particular, we're going to style this logo here. Let's do that. So here it is. This is the header CSS. Recall, let's take a look at the header. Recall that we have an ID right here for the logo. That's what this is here, this hash sign logo styles an ID. So if you want to style a class, it's .center. If you want to style an ID, it's the hash sign logo, in this case an ID of logo. So there's a rule that for floating it, again, there's a hex color. This is actually RGB. This is the same as FF, FF. So this is red on a red or green, blue, and FF is just white. So this, or is maximum. FF is maximum for this in hexadecimal. So if you max out each of red, green, and blue, you get white. And remember that I mentioned that we would use CSS to make the logo uppercase. That's this here, text transform uppercase. Let's save this and see what it did. Great. Now we can compare it to the mock-up. You can see that we've got everything on this page except for the footer, which we'll be doing momentarily.